It really, it's almost like we're dealing with crude tools. Like we're trying to perform surgery with hatchets. Like fuck, man. Like, how do you get to those people and have that discussion with all those people?
But this is, I mean, in terms of there being too much to talk about and cover, that's where I do think that things like the New York Times can make a real contribution, because there are adults in the room deciding what the important news is that you should pay attention to.
Yes.
In theory, at least.
Well, no, I wholeheartedly
and
agree.
You're going to learn about the genocide of the Uyghur Muslims in the New York Times. Like, if you really read the New York Times every day, you're going to know a lot about the world, and you're going to understand that the government shutdown is a bigger deal than what happened at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. If you're just trolling through Twitter, which is how like every person I know, or Twitter or Snapchat or whatever, like my youngest sister, how she gets her news, you're not going to necessarily know that. That's a real problem.
It is a real problem.
I don't know how to solve it. Other than tell people to subscribe to newspapers, which still have some standards and which still, when they make a mistake, correct the mistake.
How many of those are left?
There's a few.
Yeah.
I work at one of them.
You work at one of them. You definitely do. I mean, look, I said something to someone from the New York Times online after an article that they wrote about a fight. There was a boxing match between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. It was a great fight. Floyd Mayweather schooled him. But at the end, it said that Conor McGregor's face was swollen and bleeding, and he was knocked through the ropes. And I said, you can't say that, because everybody saw the fight. That didn't happen. In this crazy time where everybody is crying out for fake news, you can't say his face was covered in blood when there was no blood. You can't say that. Like, don't do that.
Was it corrected?
It was corrected, which is so rare.
But it's actually not, like, we correct things all the time.
Right. But how do you stop it from happening in the first place?
It's
how do you
really
stop that
hard.
First one?
Well, no, the first one is really hard. I mean, it's
blood.
No.
Blood when it doesn't exist.
No. When I'm saying it's really hard, what I mean is journalists just shouldn't make mistakes like that.
Right.
But we do. The difference with the New York Times and any number of these other places is that we say we made a mistake and we correct.
Well, it's hyperbole.
That matters.
Right.
Yeah, it's purple prose. It's like someone getting ahead of themselves, having a little too much fun. I don't remember that article.
Well, it wasn't. I don't necessarily think it's getting ahead. I mean, it's fiction. They applied fiction to an actual sport event, which I thought was bizarre. But
they corrected it.
They did correct it. Well, here's what's important. What's important is you can at least get a better version of the facts there than you can anywhere else.
Yes, and I guess there's some people in the new media landscape that I see, and I don't know if it's because they want to sort of gin up their own audiences or what, like nihilistically getting on, like using Trumpist language to describe the press. What they don't see, I think what they don't understand is that the loss of trust in the press is a symptom of the loss of trust in lots of public institutions. The WHO, the World Health Organization, just came out with this terrifying report where, like, one of the top 10 threats to health in, I think, the country, we should look this up, is people who aren't getting vaccines. People who think vaccines cause autism and are not getting vaccines. The stakes of, like, loss of trust in public institutions doesn't just mean, like, you're going to, like, hurt the New York Times bottom line. It's, like, a threat to all of our health, like, quite literally.
Right.
I see these things as being very, very connected. So when I see people gleefully celebrating like the fake news of the New York Times, I'm like, do you have a better alternative right now?
Right.
That's what I'm thinking. Not you, but
no, I agree.
I don't understand why anyone would celebrate that.
I think it falls into what we were talking about before, that it's an easily digestible ideology that you can just subscribe to. It's a conglomeration of preformed opinions, and you lock in, and you start saying fake news. And it's exacerbated by this situation that we find ourselves in where people aren't really buying newspapers anymore. You have to get people to subscribe. I subscribe to several on my phone and on my computer, and that's how I digest things now, or an iPad. When you think about what they have to do to get those clicks, and you see these weird, like, look, this is not a knock on Forbes. I think Forbes is an excellent periodical. They're great. They write some really important stuff. But almost every month they will write this super clickbaity thing about cell phones. Like, it comes with a nasty surprise. The new Galaxy S10 has a nasty surprise. And it's so unimaginative.
Is it always nasty?
Yes. Look, see if you can find how many nasty surprise articles about iPhones and iPads.
I see them about video games and stuff a lot,
Yep.
too. They have, like, a contributor network that people are just allowed to write articles on. And how they allow
Right.
that.
That
Like,
makes
remember
sense.
Huffington Post used to have that too?
Yeah, that fucking stuff is so dangerous because as soon as people lose their trust that you are unbiased and you're giving them an objective perspective on exactly what's going on, as soon as that, I mean, it might be nothing when it comes to Galaxy S10s or whatever the fuck they're talking about. This has a nasty surprise, but it flavors your perspective on news.
Of course it does.
And these people are fighting for their life. Journalists and people and contributors to these websites and newspapers are fighting for their life because everything is dropping off. The revenues are down. The revenues are and then like what takes their place? What takes their place? Bloggers? Who's looking at them? Are you sure that they have journalistic ethics and standards that are like what we would expect from?
They don't.
They don't. Right. They don't have to. And this brings you to the Infowars thing, right?
Yeah, I've just
If
been
that's-
thinking about that.
That's if he's a journalist.
No, he's definitely not a journalist.
But
There's
this,
not a question about
right,
that.
This is what people are fighting about. This is the whole shebang. Like if some of that news that you're getting in these traditional venues is fake, it is dangerous. If any of it is clickbaity, if any of it is
I
deceptive,
could not agree with you more.
it's fucking dangerous.